All right, so we're looking pretty gnarly. We're looking pretty good. If I could just get this still here. So first YouTube video, man. I was like, yo, let's make a video. Let's make a video. Let's actually let me share my story. Let me share where I'm coming from. Let me share my thoughts, and let me just spread it out to the world because I feel like I can't keep hiding everything. I can't keep hiding who I am as a person, right? So today I kind of just wanted to touch up on exactly how I switched my mindset to pursue more in my life, right? So growing up, I've had so many things, and I've always wanted the best for myself. I always wanted to be, the greatest as I always wanted to be the greatest as I possibly can, right? And just be the best version of myself at all times, right? It was always from one thing to the other and next and next and next and always just doing things, right? To really pursue the best version of myself always. And it was very confusing at first, as coming out of high school I was very confused. All I really knew at that time was like I really just wanted to be great. I wanted to be good at something that nobody else was really good at. I hated when I had things that other people didn't, or I hated when I had things that people also had. I always wanted something that nobody else could really have because then it made me feel a little bit more special because I was like my mindset going through this whole thing, I was like if this person can't have it, right, then that means if I actually get it, it means a lot more to me because I knew that it was a lot harder to get and not everybody is able to really grasp hands with those things. So I'm like, I gotta really push deeper. I really gotta push hard for the things that I want. Um, but going back to how I shifted my mindset to pursue more of my life, right? I think the first thing that I've done was, and it sounds crazy because it's like this all didn't happen. You guys probably think like this happened like quickly, like, oh, he just no, like the first thing that actually had to happen before I even like decided to pursue this type of mindset and to pursue more in my life, I actually had to go through a whole lot of trial and error. Trial and error, my bad. Um, but initially I had to do a lot of trial and error. I had to try different things. I had to literally put myself in the fire and go out and literally be vulnerable and put myself out there. I remember back in 2020. So I graduated in 2020. So this was like COVID year, right? Basic COVID year, lost, completely lost. No graduation, no senior like, special events, none of it. I was just lost for like that whole year. I was like, what am I gonna do? Like this was literally all going through my head at this point. And the only big thing that I had at that moment in time was probably just my fitness and just me pursuing fitness and really trying to get in the best shape as possible. And I tried as hard as I can, and that didn't really lead too well. I ended up gaining a little bit of weight. I still was big. I still was initially type kind of big, but I ended up gaining some weight, which is never a bad thing. But it was just eating me alive. I was like, I got to do something. I got to do something. So during that year, there was actually still jobs being held. So I was doing like little side jobs here and there. And I kid you not, like 2020 going into 2021, right? Or 2020 and all of 2021, right? I probably had like, I kid you not, like maybe like 10 jobs throughout that whole year. 10 jobs plus like side jobs and stuff like that. So it was quite crazy because I was literally trying shit that I've never thought I'd try. Like I was working at Dunkin' Donuts at one point. Like I don't even know what I was doing there, but I was there. I was working at Dunkin' Donuts. I had a side construction job that I was doing with my neighbor. I actually had I was like a butcher for a little bit too, which is wild. Like on the side, um, I was a butcher. I was I was working at Dunkin' Donuts. I was working at a hospital, for like senior patients. Um, I was doing so many things, and I was like, But I was literally putting myself in the fire, right? Just trying different things, because I knew that if I could just try different things, then I'll be fast to understand exactly what I like and what I don't like, right? So, about like 10 jobs was crazy to me. And when I look back into it, I'm kind of glad that I did it because it kind of forced me to be where I'm at now, right? So it forced me to be where I'm at now, and I'm like, this is actually the best thing that could ever have happened, right? Putting myself in the fire, going through a lot of trial and error, really understanding who I was as a person, and knowing what I liked and disliked. So that was probably the first thing that actually kind of like changed my perspective in pursuing more in my life. And again, I was putting myself in the fire. I was really I had to understand who I was as a person and really understand my identity, right? I had to understand, right, by putting myself in the fire and really challenging myself to really build the confidence that I needed to really pursue what I really liked. So that was big. That was a big key factor. And it is a little wild because it's like, yeah, like in the beginning stages of this journey, like you are gonna actually be lost, right? So, but you gotta bring that in. When you're lost, you're not actually lost. You're just kind of like on an adventure. You're just trying different things. You're really just like, all right, like I gotta figure this out. But unless you actually put yourself out there, you're never gonna figure it out. You're never gonna really know exactly what you like, what you dislike, none of that. So like the only root root cause or the root solution to this whole thing just is to actually just throw yourself out there. Put yourself in the fire. What's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing that could happen to you is that you don't like it and you just leave and you just quit. Right? Big thing. But now you understand exactly what you like and what you don't like. So now when you come across another thing that's somewhat similar to that, you're like, no, I don't like it. And it's so much easier to like cross it off your mind because you've already tried it. You have already tried it. But yeah, that's one thing that I really had to do. I really had to like throw myself out there, throw myself in the fire, and try a whole bunch of different things. And it was so like overwhelming at some point because I'm like, I really don't know. So that was huge. I think the next step that I really took, honestly, after like going through that whole process of really trying to understand who I was as a person, what I liked and disliked in terms of jobs and what I really wanted to pursue. Um, yeah, that was deep. That was really deep. It was like a whole year. Just that process alone was like a year. But I'm not gonna lie to you, like in that one year, this ties into the next thing that I would do, or how I shifted my mindset to really pursue more in my life. Um, the second thing was like I was reading a lot of self-help books. I think the first book that I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I don't know. I think I was with my ex-girlfriend at the time, and she actually gave me that book, and I was like, all right, cool, let's start reading. Let's start reading this thing. And yeah, it was huge. I think that reading self-help books, journaling, reflecting and journaling was probably the biggest thing too, because like once you start writing, you actually understand more of who you are as well. So that was I didn't understand that back then, but I was kind of just writing whatever was in my mind, and I didn't understand exactly what it was doing to me until I actually took a step back and realized that me writing was actually me just um it was like me giving myself input on my life, right? So it was huge because then I understood again. I had a deeper understanding of who I was and what I was trying to do. So that was huge. Self-help books, man, from Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I remember reading The Power of Now. That was huge. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. All these books that really changed my perspective was it was insane. It was the best thing that I could have done for my growth because I've learned so much from those books. And again, you're gonna read these books, but you're not gonna remember every little thing that this book is giving you. You're not gonna understand every little piece, but there will be something in those books that you will take with you. Whether it's one or two things, you will take something with it forever. It could be the smallest thing, but it'll change your life. And that smallest thing could be the key factor to your growth and your journey moving forward. Right. So just that. And again, even after reading these books, like I still had to go out and implement this information. It's not that I just read it and just like, all right, I'm good now. I really had to go out there and implement what these books were giving me, so that I was able to actually build the confidence that I needed to go out and pursue more in my life. The more I learned, the more I intentionally earned, because now I have more information. I have more information to give out to the world, right? You know, now I know a little bit more. I have a deeper understanding. I'm more, I have more wisdom towards certain things. I'm more intelligent towards different little areas, which is great. And I think me doing that and really implementing it into my real life was huge, because after actually, like, once I implemented this information into my life, it built my confidence, because I actually seen that it was working. Everything that I was reading and implementing out into the world, it was coming back to me tenfold, right? To the point where, like, I was like, I need to read more, because the more I read, the more I'm able to implement, and the more I implement, the more feedback I'll be able to get, right? So the more feedback that I'm actually able to get is actually a good thing, because feedback is like, basically, I was actually able to tell whether or not what I was doing was working or not. But that's why I had to read, implement, experiment with it, and then come back and touch base with myself and see exactly where it went wrong, or if it's working or not. So I think that was the biggest thing. I think the best mindset you could have, right? And I wrote this down, and I said to myself, if I can just do the opposite, if I could just do the opposite thing, right? If I could just do everything that nobody else is doing, then I'm guaranteed to have a different outcome, right? Because society now, right? Everybody's programmed, right? You feel like everybody's just like the same. Everybody's like a copy and paste. So I was like, if I could just do, what are those people doing? What are those people doing that I don't want to do? And then just do the opposite of what they're doing. So I was like, all right, let me do that. Not many people are waking up early. Not many people are actually reading. Not many people are actually getting their fitness in check. Not many people are actually keeping healthy and keeping that mindset of growth, right? Everybody's kind of just floating, and you see it, and you could touch base with it based off energy, right? So I was like, if I could just if I could just be the opposite of what these people are truly being, then I'm guaranteed a different outcome. I'm guaranteed to either, you know, have better success, or I'll just get feedback from whatever I'm doing and tell whether or not I'm going the right path or not. But one way or the other, I was gonna move in a different direction that these people were moving in. So my biggest mindset shift that I really programmed into myself, and a lot of this is a lot of learning and relearning. You have to understand and be aware of what's going on around you for you to actually know where to take the first step and where to take the next step, you know. But a lot of this comes with trial and error, and a lot of people think this happens like in a month or 2 months. No, this is a process of years, right? Of years of really just reflecting back, educating yourself, and keeping on the feedback on your personal growth, right? This is a constant, like, you're constantly growing. This is a never ending journey. You're always learning something, which is crazy, and I love it. But the biggest mindset shift that I still have now is just, let me just do the opposite of what people are doing. Look, guys, I'm literally in my clothes. I haven't. It's 8:44. I don't know if you guys could see. Ah, it's 8:44. It's 8:44, and I've been out the house since 6 o'clock in the morning, and I haven't. I'm still in my work clothes. I'm still in my work clothes. Um, it's about to be 9 almost, and I'm still in my work clothes because I'm hustling, I'm grinding, and I'm doing something that most people aren't doing. Right? Nobody. I haven't even eaten. Right? I haven't even eaten. I have to go. I have to go inside now. I have to go meal prep. I have to go get ready for the next day, and it's still almost. It's about to be 9 o'clock. While people are probably, chilling right now comfortably, on their couch, probably scrolling through TikTok or eventually watching this video. and I'm out here making the video. So it's like, if I could just do you guys see like the shift? Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Like, this doesn't just come like this doesn't you're not just gonna automatically become this person. You have to be aware, right? I know that there's people not doing what I'm doing right now. So it's exactly the reason why I want to do it, because it's actually gonna force me to grow in a different way and grow and force my path to like kind of just like be forced. Like I'm brute forcing my way into success, right? Because if you take a look around, right, a lot of these people around me are not where I want to be, right? So what do I have to do in order for me to not be in their position? Let me do everything that they're not doing. Let me get my physical in check. Let me get my mindset right. Let me get my communication. Let me educate myself on certain areas, right? And this is like a never ending journey, and I love it because I keep learning every day and implementing things every single day. Even this YouTube video. This might not even be the best YouTube video, to be honest. This is my first like head talk YouTube video and I don't even know how long, right? And maybe I post this, maybe I don't, right? But this is raw. This is raw, like just me talking to the camera. And it's just wild because there's a first for everything. You're gonna this is a lot of trial. This is me right now going through a trial and error phase. What's gonna work for me, what's not gonna work for me, what do I like, what I don't like. um and that's just the biggest mindset shit that I had. Let me start doing what other people are not doing, and that's huge. The next thing I could really say, let me see, always pursuing some type of goal, right? I always had a goal in mind. I always had something that I really wanted to pursue in, right? Whether that was like physical, whether that was like a physical goal, um a spiritual goal, or just I always had a goal in mind, whether that was like a spiritual goal, like a physical goal, or overall something that's gonna really challenge me in a way where I have never been challenged before. And that's the reason, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I've done a bodybuilding show, I've ran half marathons, I've done 75-day hard, all these challenges to really force me out of my comfort zone, right? To build the confidence and the inner discipline in me and the inner resilience that I must attain for me to continue being my best self. And not only that, but continue to level up in ways that other people are not leveling up in, and forcing myself to really hit the next level, the next stepping stone, right? Because once you actually once you actually hit a goal, right? Now it's like that's your foundation, that's your standard. Now from there, it's only what's the next. Once you hit that one, it's like that's your foundation, that's your standard, that's your baseline. Now what's next, right? So I hope you guys understand that this is something that you are constantly pursuing. And once you hit a level, it's baseline again. You start from zero. What's next, right? So I always had like a goal in mind. I always had a goal, or like I always had something that I was pursuing in, right? In order for me to build me as a person. Physical goal. Bodybuilding was not easy. 6 months of straight dieting was crazy to me, but it built me, it built my discipline, it built my resiliency. It taught me a lot about myself that nothing in my outside world could have taught me, right? Running a couple of half marathons. I'm not a runner, guys. I'm an athlete, but I'm not a runner. And the reason I actually took on running was because it was hard. It forced me out of my comfort zone. It forced me to become a person that I wasn't. You know, I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. I came from a weightlifting, bodybuilding type of background. So for me to go from there and shift myself into running was very hard. But now that I'm doing it, right, I hit this baseline now where it's like I love running now. Like, what do I have to do to make running a little harder for me? You know? And now it's like it's baseline. We're back to zero again. What do I got to do to keep growing? Right? So it's all like it you build this momentum when you're actually pursuing goals, right? And you keep pursuing these things and you see the outcomes of it. You're like, all right, you kind of get addicted, which is crazy, right? Because once you hit the outcome, you actually like discipline yourself for that time being. You build this momentum, but it's like a momentum. It's a good momentum that you just constantly were like, all right, what's next? You know, what's next? What can I do to force myself to really grow? You know, to really get the best out of me. You know, and the best investment is you always. You know, a lot of people are worried about money and they're worried about like finances and stuff. Guys, invest into yourself. Build your character first before you even try to figure out exactly how you're gonna make money in this world. Build yourself first. Force yourself in uncomfortable positions. And once you actually build your character, once you actually build who you are as a person, the money will follow. The money will follow. And that's a fact. Um, and people think, right, like after doing all these challenges and doing all these things, I actually had to go into like deep isolation and do everything that I said. After doing all these challenges, I had to actually go into like deep isolation and do everything that I said I would. I remember like a couple months back, I was actually I had I got tired. I got tired of my own bullshit. I knew exactly. I was so aware from, you know, from implementing all these things and all these habits. I knew the root cause of what was holding me back. And I remember a couple months back, maybe like this was like last November, or no, last October. I deleted all social media for 3.5 months, almost 4 months. And it was probably the biggest shift that I could have taken, because in that period of time, I actually grew so much in just those 4 months. I've grown so much, but I was in deep isolation. I was alone with myself. I had to sit with myself for that long, right, and force myself to grow. And not a lot of people are willing to take that time off. 4 months, bro. You tell somebody to take 4 months off social media, they're like, no way, right? And this ties back to me doing things that nobody else was doing. And this is why I am at the level that I am now, and that people actually are able to take some of this advice, because I understand this. I've went through this. I've experienced it. I'm talking from experience. I'm not talking just to talk. I'm not being arrogant. I've done this. 4 months of like, you tell somebody to hop off 4 months, right, and just delete all social media apps. They're gonna be like, no way, no way. You know, not everybody's willing to take that time off to build who they are as a person. Right? All it took for me was 4 months, and I've gained so much clarity and awareness of who I am as a person and things that I want to do. And obviously those things like kind of change, and but you get deeper and deeper with months off. I took those 4 months off, quite literally. And you tell somebody to take 4 months off, they're like, what? 4 months? But the amount of clarity and awareness that I gained in just those 4 months of deep isolation, guys, it put me ahead so much. Right? So much, to the point where I was like, if I could put myself through these things, right? If I could go through these challenges, if I could put myself into deep isolation and be alone for that long without social media, without having any outside distractions and outside noise, what can't I do if all I really need to do is just put my mind to it, right? Because I've built the confidence over time after doing these challenges, after putting myself in the fire, after forcing myself to get out of my comfort zone, right? I've built the confidence within me, right, to understand that all I have to do is just put my mind to whatever it is that I want to do, right? And this is why I'm able to actually pursue more in my life, because I've built the confidence in the back end that nobody else was watching, building my inner self, my inner discipline, my resiliency, my just awareness and clarity and confidence, right? I built this to the point where it's like all I had to tell myself now is, what can't I do? I have I have receipts. I have receipts. I have receipts of things that I could do, and things that I've done when I put my mind to it. So what can't I do? If all I really need to do is just put my mind to it, what can't I do? What can't I do? What can't you do? Right? Think about it like that. What can't you do? It all comes up here. Once you understand that actually putting yourself into this uncomfortable situations and forcing yourself to be kind of vulnerable in a way, it's actually gonna force you to grow, because you're only where you are now because of the things that you know. So when you force yourself to get out of that shell, you actually grow in a way that you would have never have thought you could grow, right? Because you are only where you are at now because of the things you know. So if you want to get to the next level, force yourself into a different arena. Put yourself in a different fire. You must. You must get uncomfortable. That's the only way for growth. You must feel uncomfortable. You must feel like everything is like it's not it doesn't feel right. You must feel that way. That's the only way that you're actually gonna get to this new baseline of level and success in your life, right? So knowing all this and going back 5 6 years ago, me with no almost no pursuit, no pursuit, almost lost, right? Almost quite literally lost in my life, right? The only thing I really knew was fitness, and I just wanted to be the biggest, best looking, I just wanted to be physically fit, right? And I wanted to look the part. That's all I had going. And I was still lost, right? But I had to force myself into uncomfortable situations because physical fitness wasn't, I was comfortable with it. It was something that I already knew in the back of my head, so I had to force myself into different arenas, do all these challenges, do things that actually force me to grow and force my self discipline, right? Um, but again, yeah, like from almost zero pursuit to almost all the pursuit in the world now, currently, right? I still feel kind of lost, but I'm at a different baseline. Everybody's at a different level. I'm at a different baseline. Where I was 5 6 years ago, I envisioned where I'm at now. So it took time. It took time for me to get to where I'm at now, but I wanted to be here. I wanted to be in this moment, in this current present moment 5 years ago. So this just tells me that I'm growing at a steady pace, right? But honestly, those first 3 years were a lot of trial and error, a lot of trial and error. So now it's like I'm really able to actually grow in a way that most people can't grow because they didn't put themselves in that fire yet. They didn't throw themselves out there. I did. And I have receipts. Again, I have receipts. And you just have to truthfully throw yourself out there, be vulnerable and force yourself to really build and do the inner work. That's the only way to grow. And this is the only way. Once you build a confidence in the back end of doing these things, you're gonna notice that you're gonna want to pursue more in your life because all it takes is the mindset of what can I do? I built myself up. I've done all these things already. All I have to do is just what can't I do? Just because I've already built the confidence with doing these other things. Right. So I could definitely do other things. Right. That's what has to go on through. I could do other things. Because back then when I didn't think I could do those things and I did it, I built the confidence. Now it's like I could do the same thing but with something else. And now you hit a different baseline of standards and success, right? So you hit this point